we were on existing public duty, and I was telling you that with existing public duty, it is not a sufficient, or it does not amount to a sufficient consideration for a contract to be considered as valid, because with that one, the person is required by law to provide that particular thing, which is termed as a consideration in the agreement between the two parties. So if you are under a public duty to perform a particular task, by you performing that task, you cannot say that you have provided a sufficient consideration. That is not a sufficient consideration. Another rule is also concerning existing contractual duty. If you have entered into a contract to perform something, and then you are bound to perform that thing, you cannot term that existing contractual duty as a valid consideration in a particular case. Because, like for instance, I said here, if someone promises to do something, they are already bound by what they have promised under law of contract. So that what the two parties have agreed to do, you cannot say that because I am doing it, it is consideration. You are bound to do it whether you like it or not. Now, if you consider the case of Steele versus Marek, and then the second case, there are two cases. Okay. All right. I think it's only one here. So if you look at the case of Steele versus Marek, 1809, this is a very long case, a long time ago case. Now, what happened here was that we had 2 out of 11 sailors deserting a ship, and then the captain of the ship made a promise to the remaining crew that if they sailed back, he was going to pay them something for like sailing back with him. And then when they got to their home, their final destination, and then they demanded for their money, the captain refused paying. The matter went to court, and the court held that the sailors were already bound by their contract to sail back and to meet such emergencies of the voyage. Promising to sail back was not a valid consideration. So by being a crew, you have accepted to, be in the ship till its final destination. So if 2 people left and then the captain made a promise that if you join me back home, then I'm going to give you something. I'm going to give you some amount of money in exchange of you sailing back with me. Now, per the crew's contracts, they were supposed to be in the ship to wherever they are going and then back home. So per the contract, they were already bound to sail back with the captain. So whatever promise the captain made to them does not, even matter. And the crew sailing back with the captain does not also amount to a good consideration. There is no consideration in this case because the parties or the crew they were under a contractual duty. And then we have existing duty owed to third parties. Existing duty owed to third parties. Now, there's a case that you should also read. The case of Scottson versus Pegg. There's also another old case. Now, what happened was that Scottson contracted to deliver coal to X or to X order. X sold the coal to Pegg and ordered Scottson to deliver the coal to Pegg. And Pegg promised Scottson that he would unload it at a fixed rate. In an action by Scottson to enforce Pegg's promise, Pegg argued that the promise was not binding because Scottson had not provided consideration, as Scottson was bound to perform an existing contractual duty. The contractual duty to the third party. It was to the third party, and of an existing contractual duty to a third party was a benefit to Pegg and was valid consideration. It could not have been seen as a detriment to Scottson, as they could have broken their contract with X and paid damages. So here, you know, it was a contractual duty for Scottson, to deliver the coal to X order. It was his contractual duty or his duty to perform under the contract. So by Pegg making a promise that if they delivered, he will pay them something, that one does not amount to a good consideration because under the contract, they were supposed to deliver to Pegg's order. So it didn't matter whether there was a promise to, pay or not. Now, you need to get the full detail of this case to look at. Now, I want you to go read about part payment of debt under consideration. I want you to read about it. Part payment of debt. There are the general rule, the general rule for part payment of debts, the Peniel case. I mean, it's all part of it. I want you to read about it, and then when we meet on face-to-face, you tell me, because I'm supposed to even give you some continuous assessments. You have to do 4 assignments so that I'll use that for your continuous assessment. So one of the assignments you do, which will count towards your continuous assessment, is on part payment. Fully write the question down. I'm giving it to you. Fully discuss part payment of debts. Fully discuss. Okay, you make it. Fully discuss the general, or you don't start with fully. Start with discuss the general rule. Discuss the general rule of part payment of debt. Discuss the general rule of part payment of debt. Discuss the general rule of part payment of debt under consideration. Discuss the general rule of part payment of debt under consideration. Under consideration. Okay, let me give you this proposal. You think about it, and then you let me know. Let the captain call me to let me know your response. I'm supposed to have a Friday 8 to 10 with company law students, level 300. But then just last weekend, I have been able to finish the course outline with them. So on Friday evenings, I am free. So let's see if we can shift from Monday to Friday, unless of course you have another class, but let me know if that is okay by you. And then we'll see how to go about it. Communicate your response to me before Thursday. So we'll end here. We are done with consideration. The rest, as I've given it as an assignment, discuss the general rule of consideration. Discuss the general rule of part payment of debt under consideration. That's your assignment, going for 10 marks. And then also look at the proposal I've given you. Let me get your response. I think we'll have to end here before I finally doze off. Before you realize there will be nothing coming from my end. My end will be completely silent, which means I am asleep. So please, that will be all for today. Any questions?
Is it on the element, the assignment? How do we submit it?
The assignment, the submission. Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay. What we'll do is this one is not part. There are some on the LMS which you will do and submit. 3 of those assignments are there. I mean, the remaining 3 you do and submit on LMS. But this one, you do it. You will submit. The submission date will be next 2 weeks, which is when? Next 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today is around when? Is it 7th April or so, or 9th April? The submission date is 9th April.
We are meeting.
It's the same day we are meeting, eh?
We are meeting you on 6th April.
6th April, okay.
We are meeting on a Saturday, 6th April.
Okay, then that day will be the submission date. So I'll give you my email, and then you can send this one day. The assignment, this very one.
Okay.
Okay.
So please, have you opened the ones on the LMS?
The line is not clear. When we have face-to-face, when we meet for the, I'm coming, and when we meet.
Please, when are you opening the ones on the LMS?
It's not open there. Oh, you see, because this time we are doing we are using the Zoom, so.
It's not yet checked. I'm sure it's not open. It's not.
All right, I'll open it for you, okay?
Yeah, it's not.
Remind me by weekend. Madam. Remind me by weekend, I'll open it for you.
Yes, madam.
When we meet face to face, I'll take you through. We will brush over the consideration again, okay? So that you don't get confused, okay?
Yes, madam.
All right, so yes, I wish you all the best. Let me hear your response on the proposal I just gave you for the Friday one. Let me know your response by Thursday.
All right, okay.
Okay. I wish you all the best. Good night, eh? Good night. Good night. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.